A betrayal in the twilight. The night I lost everything. It had been a long day at work, the kind of day that drains every last bit of energy from you, where all you want to do is come home, kick off your boots, and relax with a cold beer. That was exactly my plan as I pulled my truck into our driveway, the tires crunching over the gravel. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across our front yard, and the golden hues of twilight were fading into the deep blues of night. I loved this time of day. It was peaceful, a moment of calm before the world went dark. Normally, I'd sit in the truck for a minute, just taking it all in before heading inside. But tonight, something felt different. There was a heaviness in the air that I couldn't quite place. I shifted the truck into park and turned off the engine, but instead of getting out, I hesitated. There was a faint light spilling out from the living room window, a warm glow that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of my heartbeat. I frowned. Sarah usually didn't leave the lights on when she knew I'd be home late. She was always careful about that sort of thing. Little details that mattered to her, like not wasting electricity. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield at the window. The curtains were partially drawn, but there was enough of a gap for me to see inside. I expected to see Sarah curled up on the couch with a book, or maybe watching one of her favorite TV shows, waiting for me to join her. But what I saw instead made my blood run cold. There she was, lying naked on the couch, her body entwined with another man's. His hands roamed over her in a way that made my stomach churn, and she was responding in a way that shattered me to my core. They were completely oblivious to the world outside, to the fact that I was just a few feet away, watching the life I knew disintegrate before my eyes. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, and I had to grip the steering wheel to steady myself. I nearly fell out of the truck as I fumbled with the door, my hands shaking with a mixture of disbelief, anger, and raw pain. It was as if time had slowed down, and every second stretched into an eternity, forcing me to confront the brutal reality of what was happening. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I forced myself to look away. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. How could she do this to me? To us? We had been married for 6 years, had built a life together, a home, plans for the future. We had dreams, damn it! And in one horrifying instant, it all came crashing down. I slumped back into the seat, my breath coming in ragged gasps as I fought the urge to storm into the house and tear that bastard away from her. But as much as I wanted to, I knew I couldn't. Not yet. The shock was too overwhelming, and I needed to think, needed to figure out what the hell I was going to do. My thoughts spiraled, each one darker than the last. Was this the first time? Had she been sneaking around behind my back for months, years even? Every moment we had shared suddenly felt tainted, every kiss, every laugh, every whispered word of love. It was all a lie. The betrayal cut deep, and the pain of it was unbearable. I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, threatening to spill over. But there was something else, too. An aching sadness, a profound sense of loss. I had lost her, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I had vowed to love and cherish until death did us part. But it wasn't death that had come between us. It was something far worse. The truck's cab felt suffocating, the air thick with the weight of my emotions. I had to get out, had to escape before I did something I'd regret. With a trembling hand, I turned the key in the ignition, the engine roaring to life, and backed out of the driveway. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. Not with that image seared into my mind. I drove aimlessly, the streets passing by in a blur as I tried to outrun the thoughts chasing me. The town was quiet at this hour, most people already settled in for the night, their lives continuing as if nothing had changed. But for me, everything was different. My world had been turned upside down, and there was no going back. Eventually, I found myself at the edge of town, the truck rolling to a stop in a deserted parking lot by the river. I killed the engine and sat there in the darkness, the sound of the water lapping against the shore, the only thing grounding me to reality. I stared out at the river, the moonlight reflecting off its surface, and tried to process what I was feeling. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the image of Sarah with that man. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about everything. The trust we had built, the life we had shared. It was all gone, destroyed in one fell swoop. I don't know how long I sat there, but by the time I started the truck again, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't avoid this any longer. I had to confront her, had to face the truth head on, no matter how much it hurt. When I pulled back into the driveway, the house was dark, the lights in the living room now off. The sight of it made my chest tighten again, but I steeled myself. I wasn't going to let her lies break me. I had to be strong, had to take control of the situation. I walked up to the front door, the familiar creak of the hinges sounding louder than usual in the stillness of the night. The house was eerily silent as I stepped inside, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. I closed the door quietly behind me, my heart pounding in my chest as I made my way to the living room. She was there, sitting on the couch where I had seen her with that man just hours before. She had thrown on a robe, her hair still tousled, and there was a look of guilt and fear in her eyes as she saw me standing there. The sight of her like that, so vulnerable, made something inside me snap. I didn't give her a chance to speak. "I saw you," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and devastation. "I saw everything, Sarah." Her face went pale, and she opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "Don't," I said, my voice low and filled with a quiet fury. "Don't you dare try to explain this away. There's nothing you can say that'll make this right." She looked down, her eyes filling with tears, but I didn't care. I couldn't afford to care. She had made her choice, and now she had to live with the consequences. But as much as I wanted to walk away, to leave her there and never look back, I knew I couldn't. There were too many questions that needed answers. "Why, Sarah?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why did you do this? Wasn't I enough for you? Weren't we enough?" She looked up at me then, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said, my voice cold. "You hurt me more than I ever thought possible. How long, Sarah? How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, and that was all the answer I needed. "It's been a few months," she admitted finally, her voice barely audible. "It was a mistake. I was lonely, and he was there, and I—" "Don't!" I snapped, cutting her off again. "Don't you dare try to justify this. We were married, Sarah. We made vows. How could you do this to us?" "I don't know," she said again, her voice cracking. "I've been so lost, and I didn't know how to talk to you. I'm so sorry, Jack. I know I've ruined everything, but please, don't leave me." I stared at her, my heart breaking all over again. She looked so desperate, so broken, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the way she had looked in that man's arms, the way she had betrayed everything we had built together, and the pity I felt for her evaporated. "I need time," I said finally, my voice firm. "I can't be around you right now. I need to think, to figure out what comes next." She nodded, tears streaming down her face, but I didn't look back as I turned and walked out of the room. I couldn't. If I did, I knew I'd break, and I couldn't afford to do that, not now. I made my way to the bedroom, the place that had once been our sanctuary, but now felt like a prison. I grabbed a bag and started throwing clothes into it, not caring what I took. I just needed to get out of there, needed to put as much distance between myself and Sarah as possible. As I zipped up the bag, I heard her voice from the doorway. "Jack, Please, she pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. Don't leave like this. We can fix this. We can make this right. I paused, my heart aching at the sound of her voice, but I knew there was nothing left to say. I slung the bag over my shoulder and turned to face her, my expression hard. You made your choice, Sarah. Now I have to make mine. And with that, I walked past her, out of the bedroom, and out of the life we had once shared. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face, and I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I had no idea what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. I got into the truck, the familiar rumble of the engine a small comfort in the chaos of my mind. As I pulled away from the house, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, relief. I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do next, but for the first time that night, I felt like I was in control. I had taken the first step towards reclaiming my life, and no matter how hard it was going to be, I knew I had to keep moving forward. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but I was ready to face it. I had to be. There was no going back. Jack's world shatters when he comes home one evening and discovers his wife in the arms of another man. In a moment of devastation, he nearly loses control as he watches the life he once knew crumble before his eyes. Forced to confront the reality of betrayal, Jack must navigate the pain of lost trust and the uncertainty of his future. This is a gripping tale of love, loss, and the difficult journey towards reclaiming one's life after the ultimate betrayal.